exciting. Now the next race for everybody is Phoenix. And I want to brag on our guy here for a minute. He's probably not going to like this, but he had 9 wins there, 4 consecutive, 20 top 5s, 31 top 10s, and over 1,700 laps led. Those were your numbers at Phoenix.
It was a good place.
And you and I should just leave.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need us to talk about Phoenix. Yeah.
That is amazing, though. And it's actually very rare that a driver has that kind of success at one place over all those years. I mean, I think of Jimmy Johnson at like Dover or something, but that's incredible.
Well, thank you. It was definitely a place where we enjoyed a lot of success. And for me, I grew up as a kid in Bakersfield, California, and Phoenix was the place you wanted to go if you were racing the Truck Series or the West Series, Southwest Tour cars. That was kind of our Daytona 500 as we would go through the season. You wanted to go over there and perform well while the Cup guys were at the racetrack because the Southwest Tour race was there. At that point, the Winston West cars were getting a provisional in the Cup race.
Oh, were they really?
Yeah, so they got 2 provisionals right before I started racing the West Series. They actually got 2 provisionals in the Cup race to run during the Cup weekend. So that kind of gave it a little more flair, I guess you could say, to be able to go to Phoenix and kind of showcase what you could do if you could just somehow figure out how to keep yourself in contention and get seen during the Cup race at one point or another. That was a feather in the cap. But as a kid, I spent a lot of time over there. Raced my Southwest Tour cars and trucks and was able to gain a lot of laps in the beginning. Well, not in the very beginning. In the very beginning, I crashed a couple times, but we were able to gain a lot of experience. And I always felt a sense of pride when I would go to Phoenix, just because that you wanted to do a little bit better there than you did everywhere else. But I had a ton of laps before I ever ran in the Cup Series, whether we got our first win at KHI there in the Truck Series in 2002. So that was pretty cool. We won our first Cup race with Stuart Haas racing there. I think it was the second or third race that we were actually on the racetrack together. We went over there and won. So that was, it's always been a great place for us. We're fortunate to have a lot of success. And for me, very fortunate because it was in front of my longtime fans that had watched me race there since the mid 90s. And to be able to perform well there and have success at that particular racetrack was always something that was pretty cool.
Wow, that's amazing. Does it what wins stand out to you? Is there specific
definitely the Stuart Haas win, getting to victory lane with them so early in the season and just checking that box and being able to say, okay, yeah, we're for real. Because at that point there were still a lot of questions. Stuart Haas had a couple of kind of offbeat years compared to what they had done when they started with Tony there. And to be able to say, okay, that wasn't a bad move. That's actually going to work out okay for them because, they've come and won. I think, I guess it would have been 2006, whatever the race was with Jimmy Johnson to be able to hold Jimmy off and with a late race restart there. That one was fun. And then the beating and banging with Carl Edwards coming to the start finish line and winning by, a couple inches was pretty neat. So, Carl had a couple of new tires on and for us, we had stayed out on the racetrack and we're kind of vulnerable at this particular point, but it goes to show you how fast our race cars were. But we're going to come into turn 3 here and Carl's just going to send it on the apron. And I knew right there, I'm like, oh, he got into me. I need to hit him in the door to slow down the momentum or he's going to go right by. I slowed him down just enough. And then he realized I need to slow him down. And we had some pretty serious contact there, but a great finish for the fans. And at that point, had a pretty good streak of wins and things happening at Phoenix. So special place. My grandpa used to go to Phoenix and he had a motorhome and he would take it over a month early. Wow. Because at Phoenix, before they put the tunnel in, you had to go over the back straightaway to cross over into the infield. So I would drive my Southwest Tour trailer and stuff over there, but he would always go over there a month early and park the motorhome because of all the Cup fans that would come in. So he'd go park the motorhome and it was right at the end of the chain link fence. And every year when I would get there, this motorhome was parked there. He'd be standing at the fence smoking a cigarette. And he would yell at me until I would come over to that fence and talk to him because they'd always stage you in line back there and put you in line to pull the trailers in. And when everybody was there, then they'd pull you in one at a time. And if I drove by that campsite, my grandpa would yell and scream until I came over there and talked to him. So
Classic.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Looking at that video, that's the old configuration. Or the start-finish line was down what is now the backstretch.
Right.
I always get this very confused.
Yeah, I did too.
And when I raced there in the fall, I raced the ARCA race in the fall, and I was calling the turn 1, turn 3. I was very not helping my guys with that, like very messed up. Can you tell a little bit about the difference between the configurations? It's because the old one used to have grass down the dog leg, and now we can run through there, and it's elevated and all those type of things.
Really, it's all different. They actually put banking in what is now the front straightaway. Yeah. And they put that dog leg, the dog leg's in the same spot. It's just way more banked. Yeah. So that their whole theory was, how are we going to design this racetrack so we can make it have a stadium feel and everybody can see more of the action? So they took all the motorhomes out of the infield. It used to be covered with motorhomes. You had a tough time seeing from turns 1 and 2 down to 3 and 4 because of the tops of the motorhomes. So they put the motorhomes around the outside of the racetrack more than what they were and built more grandstands in 3 and 4 at the start-finish line and like they are currently. So the front stretch is more banking. Turns 1 and 2 is kind of the same, and 3 and 4 became a little bit more banked as you drive into the middle and the exit of the corner. So still that flat track feel. I mean, you still got to get through the middle of 1 and 2 and be able to get the car rotated in 3 and 4, but you got a lot of banking to drive into off of 4. So we were fortunate to have success on both styles of racetracks. But I think the fan experience is a lot better when you look at pre-race and victory lane and all those things right in the infield right there, so the fans can see what's happening right below them. Kind of gets everybody involved in a different way than most tracks.
This place, the fan experience is legit.
Yeah,
I mean, the fans, they show up in Phoenix, and that's the place where they have those people have the lazy boy that they put on the scooters that we always see on Fox. That's great. And I think Clint has, what's that segment he's got? He's got the
Tailgate Kings.
He's gonna you might need to go with him. He might get lost in the Phoenix.
I'm worried he
campground.
might show back up.
That's what I'm saying. They like to get down out there.
Yes, and when you stand at the top of the grandstands or in the suites and look out over the motorhomes, it looks like they go into the mountains. They go forever out there. It's one of our top 3 camping destinations on the circuit, but the fans in Phoenix always turn out.
Great venue, obviously, for NASCAR to go to. Now, of course, hosts the season finale. How many championships would you have had if we were doing that race
I know.
at the end every year? Wow, you probably 9-time champion over here, maybe.
Yeah. A couple.
But what does make a driver so good at one specific place? Is it all the experience you were talking about from when you were younger? Is it just a feel you have for it? What enables that?
Well, when I went to SHR, the first thing that Rodney told me is, okay, what do you need? What are you looking for in the car? Because it's just that time that we spent on the West Coast growing up. We grew up at a lot of short flat tracks. And when I went to RCR, we spent a lot of time at Milwaukee. We spent a lot of time at the flat tracks. We were always really good on the flat tracks. So I did a lot of testing. I grew up on those style of racetracks, and Phoenix was just a racetrack that I had a lot of experience and a lot of laps at. So I think it's really, for me, it's a feel with the brakes and when to release the brake and how much brake pressure to use. And I always thought we did pretty good at the partial throttle through the center of the corner to keep that mid-corner speed up. And I think Phoenix, you can, especially with the new configuration, you can get away with that partial throttle through the center of the corner, especially if the car will rotate. So between the braking and the partial throttle, I think those are 2 things that most people didn't have figured out, the partial throttle before SMT. And I think that the partial throttle thing really started to stick out once SMT came around and they were able to study that a little bit. So, but even at the last race there, the biggest advantage that we had was under the brakes and being able to get that brake package right. So
who are we watching? Who are we eyeing there when we go to Phoenix? Because this is a different,
I think
different deal.
I think with this is officially the new diffuser week. I'm going to get that right. Reiterate that I'm going to get that right this week. Lock it in. And I think that if you just had to pick based upon what we saw last week and last year and what we've seen at the beginning of the season, I think it's going to be the 5, the 24. I like the 20. I think that the 12 will be the best Ford. I would go with probably those 4 guys to start with. But I think the door is open for us to see anybody if it's that much different with everything that they have going on with the diffuser. And everything that's changed this week. So the door's a little bit open for there to be some more guys to creep into that picture.
Yeah, I mean, the guy that won there last time we were there, he's looking pretty sporty right now. So, no, Ross. Ross won there last time.
Duh.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I'm thinking champion.
Well, you would have thought that RB would have won it because of the celebration, but Ross is gonna be. I think he's gonna be a thorn in their side at Phoenix.
And he had a good car. He had a good car at Vegas. They had the pit road penalty. He battled back and actually ran the last part of the race on 2 tires. So I agree. I think that until beaten. He's run well there pretty much every time they've been there. So until beaten, I think you have to put them in that mix as well.
So you were mentioning when you raced there recently.
Yeah.
What was challenging about this track? What do you think is the tough parts of it?
It's a real momentum. Like, so 3 and 4. Yeah, 3 and 4. You got to really slow the car down to get to the apron, but also you got to be able to carry speed to get down through the dog leg. And if you don't carry speed off that corner, you get ate up from behind you. And then all of a sudden they're inside dog leg. And then all of a sudden it's 3 inside, you're 4th on top. And you're like, what do you mean? Where is everyone coming from? Because you can run so wide through there. So that was hard. And then when you do get back on the racing surface into 3, if you're carrying too much speed, you can really bust your ass down in 3 and 4. You can get into the gray really quickly, and I did that. And there was a nice stripe down the side of my flagpole buddy's car, and it didn't look very good at the end of the race. And so, but that place is tough. It's just tricky. It's a weird, different type of short.
I'm going to make it simple for you.
Oh, here we go.
You're going to drive to the line into 1. You're going to aim for the line on the bottom of the racetrack. You're going to let off the brake, either touch partial throttle or floor it. Stay on the white line. When you let off at the 2 cones into 3, you're going to aim for the wall, put the left front tire in the trough. As soon as you lift off the brake, floor it, drive to the start-finish line.
You got that?
Okay?
Yeah. You lost me at like something about the second line. He said line like 8 times.
Oh, there you go.
It's that simple, though.
But for the drivers who are listening, though, they should take that into account from a true pro at that place.
Yeah, I mean, that's the simple part of it. Now you got to get your car to work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's like the old days of Thunderline. All right, kid. Now you got the driving part done. Now go get your own car.
Yeah, now get your own car.
That's right.
You think it'd be weird watching from the
Not
booth?
at all.
No,
I've enjoyed watching.
Locked in.
Yeah,
after all those guys have run into each other, we hear them chirping after the race. You don't have to chirp back. You don't have to worry about who's mad, who's not, who's how your car's running, whatever the scenario is. I just get done and put my headset on the counter and worry about where I'm going to eat dinner and how fast I can get to the airport, because it's there's just no pressure from that competition mindset. And I think I lived in that for so many years. And going to Phoenix, it will bring back a lot of great memories and a lot of fun that we had through the years. But when I was done at Phoenix in the fall and able to close that chapter and move on to the next one, it's been fun. And I hope that how much I'm enjoying myself comes across in the broadcast and things that we do here.
Absolutely.
Because it's just, I'm having a good time and being able to be involved in a sport that I love and really have built my life around is fun to be involved in a different way that's not competitive.
That reminded me of something, because I was standing by your car when you pulled up at Phoenix at the end of that race, and just to see all those fans, the photographers, everybody around you, like kind of capturing that last moment when you got out of the car. It was sad, but I mean, I was happy for you. But was it happy sad? What was that moment like?
Yeah, it was a relief, because that week was long. There was a lot of people there. There were a lot of emotions going through your head, because it was the last week. There was no more next week, and up until that point, there had always been a next week or a next year, and then it all hit me going into that week. I was like, uh-oh. This really is the last week. Yeah. there is no more next week. Now you're going to have to deal with the emotions of dealing with that last week and dealing with everybody being there and dealing with, seeing your kids when you get out of the car and having to hug your wife and tell her that was it. It was a great ride. And for me, it was looking at the team. Because those guys all have to do something different. They have a different driver, and everything that you'd been a part of building to that point was over, and it was official. Mm-hmm. And so I think that for those emotions and everything that was going through your mind at that point, it was that week was a lot to deal with. And when it was over and I got out of the car, I was like, okay, I don't have to answer any more questions. I don't have to worry about any more emotions. And it was finally official that it was over with.
You're not a super emotional guy, I've noticed, but maybe you
I'm
were
not,
internally.
but I was emotional that week. I mean, you know, the standing ovation in the drivers' meeting and the kids on the radio and everything that was happening during that week was just, it was emotional. And there were a lot of people there. There were a lot of people that, you know, cared about everything that you did. And the biggest thing I learned last year, what you did in your career meant different things to different people at different times in their life. When you go back to the 29 car at North Wilkesboro, hearing people's story from where they watched the race, where they sat in the grandstands, you know, I was with my dad, he's not with us anymore. Whatever the scenario was, you heard all those stories and you started to realize how much, and you forget this while you're in the car, but how much driving that race car and who you are as a person means to people outside of the sport, because that's why they're watching. And whether it's because they're emotional about, you know, who you were or what they were, they've got stuff going on in their life. So I think sometimes in the competitive mindset, you lose sight of what it means to people who are watching a race and what the impact that you have on them.
Yeah.
Hey, race fans, thanks for watching our video. For all NASCAR on Fox News, content, and the best clips from Fox Sports, be sure to follow and subscribe to our channel.